Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you. Agenda review. Anything to add, Kathy? Okay, no, nothing to add. Anybody else? Anything to add? Okay. Okay, first order of business is to approve the meetings for the last several board meetings. The first minutes are for the October 5th school board meeting. We hear a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Jim. By Tim. Okay, any errors, omissions, corrections, additions to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor. Krista? Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Yes. Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye. Thank you. The next set of minutes is for the October meeting, and that was a non-public session. Any errors, omissions, corrections for that? Okay, Tim makes a motion to approve. I hear a second.
Okay.
Second by Jim Pittman. Okay, these are the minutes again for the non-public school board meeting on the 15th. All those in favor. Krista? Julianne? Abstain, okay. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Dr. Jim?
Abstain.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. The next set of minutes are for the October 26th school board meeting, which is basically a public input session. Any motion for that? Okay, Tim makes a motion to approve. And who seconded?
I'll second.
Charlene seconded. Okay, any errors, omissions, corrections for those as well? The hearing none, all those in favor. Krista? Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. The next order of business is to approve the manifests that are being signed tonight. The manifest totals for accounts payable are $2,010,593.54, and the payroll manifests are $2,608,193.97 for a total of $4,618,787.51. We hear a motion to approve the manifest.
So moved.
It's been moved by Dr. Jim, seconded by Tim. Okay, all those in favor of approving the manifest in a total of $4,618,787.51. Krista? Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Yes. Dr. Jim?
Aye.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Okay, this is the time for public input, and we'll open the floor to those that would like to speak to the board. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less if you can, because we've got a long agenda for tonight. And again, I know there might be some differences of opinions out there, and please be respectful of those that have differences of opinions. So anyone would like to speak, there's a microphone right in the middle. And if you'd like to address the board after you finish, please just wipe down the microphone. Any public input? There'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting as well to have public input before we go into non-public. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Well, tonight we have Paul Mapowski with us. Paul is our IT director, and he's been a very busy person along with his department actually since last March. throughout the summer and the beginning of the school year. He's done some really incredible things as far as getting our families connected and making sure everybody has the right equipment and is all set to do all of the remote learning and teaching that's been going on in the district. But at the same time, Paul hasn't lost sight of the long-range plans. You've heard Paul speak before about the big plans that he has for the district, and so he's going to give you an update tonight on where he's at with some of those plans and what's coming up for the future. So with that, Paul, if you'd like to come up.
Hello, hope everyone's well. As you can imagine, those plans have kind of slowed down a little bit since last March. We've been putting a lot of our efforts into making sure the remote learning goes smoothly. I think it's gone pretty well overall. A lot of that credit goes to, as far as getting the devices out, Chromebooks, that is, inventoried and all, to the library media specialists. We've done a lot of work getting that up and running. I'm not sure we could have managed to get all those Chromebooks out and into students' hands without them as fast as we did. I know we could. We spent a lot of time in the summer doing the same thing. The cataloging, inventorying, signing those Chromebooks out. That was probably one of the most difficult things. Remote access for us, helping remotely all the faculty and staff when they needed it since March has been a challenge. Getting a little easier now. We have some things in play that have helped with that. When we went into March, everybody went home. One of the first things we had to do was get web filtering for Chromebooks when they're away from our network. That was a major thing. We're using GoGuardian now, which does that job quite nicely. I have to say, we put all our focus into making sure this remote learning has smoothly, really. All the projects, almost all the projects, we've put on hold right now. Just trying to make the changes that we need to in the network to allow access the way we need it. It's been a challenge. I think we're doing pretty well now. We're working on a way now for faculty to assist students who are not present in their class that particular day, so it won't be just us who can help them. We're working on a plan to get allow the faculty to actually be able to assist remotely the Chromebooks while they're at home if the student is having issues. We did get clever badges running up and running for the elementary schools, kindergarten through 3rd grade. It allows the younger students to hold a QR code up to their Chromebooks and log in. So I can't imagine a 1st or a 2nd grader having to log in with our email address. So this is, and actually Scott, this would be good. Scott has a really quick clip that shows a student, it's a clip right from Clever that shows how the Clever badge works. You could, it's really handy. When the student logs in, like you see, it takes the student right to their teacher's Clever page, and the teacher is able to have apps there. It's a single sign-on, so we can add multiple websites and applications to Clever. Once the student logs in with that QR code, they're able to just click the application and go in. They don't have to worry about entering a username and password. Parents don't have to worry about that. It's working pretty good. We still have some bugs to work out in that. for the most part, I think that's been quite a help. Honestly, that's the focus right now, is to get Clever Badges up and running, the web filtering, trying to get all of that to go smoothly and prepare for, we're trying to prepare for the worst. We're hoping for the best, but we're preparing for the worst. In case we all go home again, I think we'll be okay. We'll be much better than we were in March. We opened our ticketing system up to parents and students as well. Our tickets are up from last year, the same one from March to November. We're up by 600 tickets, I think, ran the report. So it's nice to be able to generate those numbers. And for the most part, we've been able to assist those families from afar. We were able to get out, we have 125 hotspots that we've been able to provide to families with poor internet connectivity or no connectivity at all. We do have that out. Each hotspot is capable of 2 live connections. You could have 2 Chromebooks doing Google Meet successfully on these. And that seems to be working fairly well. That's where the focus has been.
Any questions for Paul? I can't imagine the amount of work that you've been putting in to get this all up and running, because you know, there's so much involved, and there's so many areas, like you say, as many hotspots as we have right now. There's so many areas that have dead zones, and very, very difficult. So, you know, hopefully in the future that'll kind of go away as more and more towers are put up, and you know, whatever else is necessary out there. But a tremendous amount of work, and thank you for all you've been doing on that.
Absolutely.
Yes, go ahead, Dana. Speak right into the mic there if you can, so we can hear you. There's a switch on the top.
Underneath Chromebooks on the unanticipated cost for the district because of the pandemic, underneath Chromebooks, it has $75,924. Do you know if that also includes repairs?
That would be for replacements. We have many Chromebooks that are probably between 7 and 8 years old that are no longer receiving updates. So that would be to replace those old ones. When a Chromebook stops receiving updates and Google does their updates with their new features, those older Chromebooks are not getting them. And it's been difficult to manage that. Most of them are stuck at, I want to say, OS 75, and I believe we're up to 85 or 87 at this point, Google is. That's what that would be. Repairs are coming out of my current repair line, and it really hasn't been horrible considering the amount of Chromebooks. We're looking at, what are we talking, 2,300 Chromebooks that are out there. And it really hasn't been that bad, I have to say. And most of the issues are coming from the older Chromebooks that they weren't made for travel the way they're traveling now. Yeah. They're not as tough as some of the newer HPs or Dells. They just, if they drop, most of the times on those, you can almost bet the screen will break. There's just nothing you can do about those.
Well, that's nice to know, because some school districts are having a problem with Chromebooks coming back in pieces.
Oh, yes.
Keyboards missing.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, but I do not think the numbers really aren't that bad.
Thank you.
Paul, do you have a sense of, as we get newer Chromebooks in, and we log them in and, you know, do our inventories and all that, what's your sense on how long a Chromebook, we should keep Chromebooks, and what's the turnover cycle from a budgeting standpoint, as far as, how often should we be replacing these?
I say that the 5 years for a Chromebook, just like the laptops or desktops. You have to remember, most of these, if you had your Chromebook at home, you might be using it for an hour, maybe so at night. But a lot of these Chromebooks, and definitely faculty and staff laptops and desktops, they're running 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And that heat inside those, coming from the processors and the components, does degrade them over time. And 5 years should be the replacement cycle on all of that.
Okay, well, we want to make sure we keep that in the budget then, to
Yeah,
keep that cycle going forward.
yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Paul?
Well, I want to also thank you very much for all you and your department have been doing. You think about moving from servicing computers of the faculty and our infrastructure to multiples of that, moving to remote instruction, and 2,300 of our students having Chromebooks. So I know the board appreciates what you're doing and your department is doing, and I certainly do as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here tonight and updating us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay.
Right. The next agenda item is use of facilities by outside groups. Since we closed last March due to the pandemic, we've not allowed the use of facilities to outside groups. We've actually limited the number of visitors to our schools. We're doing parent conferences virtually. And in the summer and fall, it was a little bit easier, say, no activity within the school building. But I do anticipate that this winter, there will be groups that want to use our facilities. And so I need some direction from the board as far as how you would like that handled. We have stepped up, as you all know, our sanitization and cleaning protocols. And so, of course, having an outside group come in does place more of a burden than it has in the past on our custodial staff. So that certainly is something to consider. And we always have tried to have the public use the schools as much as possible, but our circumstances are different right now. So I think this probably discussion by the board.
Anybody like to start a discussion on this? Okay. All right, well, I'll start, I guess. I'm very hesitant, I think, in having outside groups come in unless we have somebody to monitor exactly what happens. Of course, we'd have to limit the number of people in the building at any one time, have to make sure that social distancing is in place, that face masks are in place, and all those pieces, all those protocols are followed. These buildings do belong to the public, and I know we've used our couple of elementary schools anyway for election these past. That's a little bit different, I think, because I don't say that's an outside group doing a particular thing there. The elections were a specific event that had to follow certain protocols to hold the elections in the building. So I think those are a little bit different. But I'm hesitant to kind of open the doors to all of our buildings for whatever groups may want to come in, an extra burden not only on our staff and certainly the custodial staff to be there, to clean and all that. So I'm torn because these buildings belong to the voters and taxpayers of the district, but in these times, I'm very hesitant to open them to outside groups at this point. Maybe after the holidays and seeing where things are going, we can take a vote to change our direction. But right now, I'd be very hesitant to do that. That's my opinion. Anyone else? Jim? I think you're on.
I'm on, okay. I don't know what typically you would be having as requests for public use. Can you give some examples?
Sure. We have, in some of our schools, we have pickleball, youth basketball, Abenaki lacrosse, town events, Parks and Recreation often use our schools. Indoor soccer has used our schools in the past. So there's a few examples.
Hear me? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thank you for that information. The follow-up on Jack's, I also feel Kathy, that comes and goes. But I feel we shouldn't be entertaining any occupancy of the premises that would not be able to conform at least to what we're expecting during education time. I think that should be a minimum bar. And then additionally, I feel like we're on the cusp of a increase in cases in the community, and maybe that requires us to be even a little more cautious, my opinion. Not very quantifiable, but general impression on that.
One other event I know that happens in the spring, and between now and the spring, we'll certainly see how that plays itself out. Some schools are used for the town meetings, if there are town meetings in town. So right now, I'd say even if those town meetings were to be held, if there's still social distancing requirements in place, they'd have to do something other than being inside the building anyway. So we can certainly face that as the time approaches, but we'll see. But right now, I'm very much opposed, I guess, to just opening the buildings to any organizations. Any other comments?
If we're looking to move forward with a recommendation for Kathy, I would make the recommendation that we hold off on allowing the use of the buildings at least until the middle of January. And then at that point, we can reassess at our January meeting.
Okay. All right, so you want to make that a motion then?
Yep.
Okay, so the motion on the floor in a second. Okay, so there's a motion. Let me see. Tim made the motion, and Dr. Jim seconded. So the motion on the floor is to not allow outside groups into our buildings until at least the middle of January, to be reevaluated at that point. Is that okay? Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. Any other comments? Yes, Jim.
Would there be any exceptions to that? I mean, I know we just had the election. I mean, that would be like an example of an exception. Is there anything else coming up during that time period that we might want to think of accommodating?
I can't think of anything specific, and I think if something does come up that we're not thinking of tonight, when we meet at our December meeting, if something's all of a sudden come up, we can certainly talk about that. But I can't think of anything specific that might happen.
Yeah, and the only thing that I'm thinking that January through March would be, if one of the towns came to us and said,
Right.
as far as needing space. But I think we should be good at least through the middle of January.
Right. And I know, Tuftonboro certainly uses their gymnasium for town meeting, and we usually get, 200, 300 people, side by side, elbow to elbow, in the gym, and obviously if we're doing social distancing at that time as well, that's just not going to happen. And I know the town of Wolfeboro last year wound up finally holding their town meeting at the Sandwich Fairgrounds, and everybody was in their cars and had people up on the stage doing their thing, and that's how they had to hold their town meeting last year. So there are ways of getting around it if you have to. So we'll certainly see how that goes. Okay, so
one thing that has been on my mind recently is deliberative session and how we'll manage deliberative session. And I know we're not the only district in this place that, so I know that the School Boards Association has something coming up that will give some districts ideas about how to manage deliberative session a little bit differently to keep everybody safe.
Just one concern would be use of classrooms or use of an area like this. For example, we're going to be covering in this meeting about letting some afternoon group possibly coming in. You're not talking about exempting them, or you are?
If it's a school activity, that's different, but we're not looking at allowing any outside,
Oh, okay.
anything that's not school-related.
How are we handling the great plays that are put on here? Are we still having plays and activities and?
Yes,
because
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, again, school-related activities will remain
Yeah.
the way they are at this point in time, but any outside groups, we're going to limit.
thanks.
Okay, everybody comfortable with the motion that's on the floor? Okay, all those in favor of supporting the motion on the floor to not allow outside groups in until at least the middle of January to be reevaluated at that point, signal by saying aye. Krista? Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Yes. Dr. Jim?
Aye.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene? Dana?
Yes,
And chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is the New Hampshire Future Leaders Program. This evening, we have Lieutenant Cody Wood of the New Hampshire Army National Guard with us. Lieutenant Wood is here to introduce us to the Future Leaders of New Hampshire program for grades 9 through 12. At this time, Lieutenant Wood, I will turn it over to you to give us an overview of the program.
Excellent, thank you. So, good evening, board. Good evening, audience. My name is Cody Wood, and I'm the program manager of the Future Leaders of New Hampshire. For time's sake, what I'm going to do is just jump into program details. We'll talk about the success of a school that we are in right now and some of the benefits of the program. So the vision of our program is to develop the most influential program for high school students in order to enhance their success during high school and after graduation. How we do that is our mission statement. So we teach and mentor young adults throughout the schools in order to enhance their leadership, grow the community involvement, teach life skills, develop confident employees, and cultivate student professionalism. Our program values outline leadership, loyalty, dedication, respect, selflessness, honesty, integrity, and professionalism. How we pick those values is very simple, right? So each leader has a value set that they adhere to, and we feel as though that value set is essential in order to cultivate these students, in order to cultivate professionalism. Our plan of execution from an administrative standpoint is to initiate the program development, gain concurrence from schools, pilot the school in a club format, and then grow this program year after year. So far, out of all 4 of those, we have done 3. So we have initiated the program. We're currently in Kennett High School at the Mount Washington Valley CTE, and we piloted it as a 2-hour club after school. Plan of execution from a club perspective is to kick off the club within 3 months of the school year, which we've done. We meet twice a week based on the students' wants and needs, and we have bumped it from 1 hour to 2-hour block. The first hour being a block of instruction, where we teach life skills, health and fitness, leadership skills, and citizenship skills. The second hour is a fitness realm where we go either inside and use a fitness area inside the school, or we use the campus grounds in order to teach these students different exercises, whether it be cardio, whether it be body mass strengthening, or whether it's weightlifting. For the 2020 to 2021 goals, we're trying to pilot 2 schools by the start of 2021. Currently, we're in Kennett High School, and we're looking for another school to pilot our program in. We're going to execute a 5-day summer camp this year, and we're going to grow 1+ school in 2021 for the 2021 to 2022 school year. We're also looking to be accredited through the Learning Everywhere initiative that would give students credit for taking our class as it pertains to PE and health. To go over some successes, I'll talk about Kennett High School. So in Kennett High School, we started our first session on September 17th, 2020. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday, like I said, from 1:30 to 3:30. Sometimes it goes into 4 o'clock, depending on the students' wants and needs. Sometimes they want to elaborate on some of the instructional portions that we give. We have 3 to 7 students right now. We have 3 instructors, one being a teacher at Kennett High School at the CTE. The club, just to give you kind of a background on the actual day-to-day process of the club, is we focus on increasing the knowledge of the high school students in order to enhance their future success and the success of those around them. So we started out as a 1-person club. We had 1 kid, 1 student that came and sat in on our virtual session, and now it's grown to 7. On any given day, we have anywhere from 3 to 4 students based on after-school curriculums or extracurricular activities or sports. We use 1 classroom, we use the hallways if needed, and we use the campus grounds, like I said. We have in-class sessions, socially distanced, we wear masks, but we also have a Google Classroom where we post curriculum and assignments if students don't feel comfortable being in the in-class session. We use 1 storage closet, just enough to keep some supplies. And we have a pre-screening for the COVID-19. You might wonder what the benefits are of this program. So this program not only allows the students to be a part of an organization, but it allows them to build their portfolio. I remember in high school, one particular project that we did, project-based learning, we created a concrete canoe. That concrete canoe created my success post-high school. Went on to become a mechanical engineer, and now I work for a defense contractor. I want to give the students at each individual school the same success opportunities that I had. And I think through project-based learning and the future leaders of New Hampshire, we can achieve that. Any questions? That's my brief. Thank you.
Charlene?
I have about half a dozen questions. Should I ask them all now or just sort of pace myself and everybody else?
Well, I think you'll probably just one at a time and let the gentleman have his.
Okay, my first question is why are you targeting the Governor Wentworth Regional School District to be one of your schools you add to your pilot program?
So one of the reasons is we're an organization that wants to kind of focus on a wide variety of skills, right? So anything from a life skill being survival, first aid, whatever it may be. Based on the success at Kennett High School, we want to kind of work from north to south. We've looked at the status and the stats of the school district, and we felt as though, based on the population, how many students we can impact, we felt as though Kingswood Regional would be a good school to have as a pilot school.
Okay, so just to clarify, the reason you were interested in Governor Wentworth is because it's the next high school south of Kennett?
Negative, no. So not just the region, but based on talking with the students at Kennett High School and some of the friends that they have, etc. We felt as though the students in this region would benefit from it. And then in addition to that, the population kind of creating an impact at the school.
So you've grown to about 7 students at Kennett now?
That is correct.
And because Governor Wentworth is the next, I guess you're saying, large high school, working your way south, that's why it seems as though it's one of the schools you want to add. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, just Jim.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Excuse me if I ask with some candor, is this going to, at least to some degree, be a pipeline recruitment vehicle for you?
No, sir, not at all. So to be very simple, this program is not a recruiting tool. I'm not a recruiter. This program is designed to impact students and enhance their success. We're not a recruiting function. We're not here to recruit students. No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Whoops. Yeah, I'm supposed to be on, okay.
I don't think you're on.
I think you might have turned yourself off.
I'm supposed to be
There
on,
you go.
green light, everything. Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah. It's difficult to start anything new in any area, especially schools. But we do have ways that you can introduce. Program is going to include the students, so that's a good thing. Would you work through guidance? How do you plan to introduce this to students?
So at first, sir, I'd like to enter the school and talk with not only principals, guidance counselors, etc., some of the teachers, and kind of gauge the interest of the population at the school. And one of those being working with the guidance counselors to assist in career mapping and goal mapping for the students.
That, I think, about the students. The other thing would be, I've worked with programs like yours, and they're very good. And it may mention the military as employment, but they're surely not. They're not in the recruiting mode. They're more interested in helping students. So that I thank you for. And would you be satisfied, though, with a low number? I mean, I know it'd be nice to have 15 or more sign up, but I just trying to have a limit before you can financially justify doing the program here?
Negative, sir. So what I would tell you is if we can impact the life of one student, we'll be here. If one student is interested, every program starts small, and through the success of that, say, one individual, the program will grow.
Okay, thank you very much for the information.
Thank you.
Good, Tim?
When I first got onto the board, I had worked with the Rochester School District and seeing the ROTC program down there, thinking it's a fantastic program. Certainly it involved lots of students. But when I had mentioned it to be brought up here at the district, the funding piece was definitely the huge ball that made it bounce away. So certainly this, knowing that it's fully funded through you folks, is there anything that would, other than the space requirement, anything that you would need from this district?
As far as the pilot program is concerned, no, sir. So we just need a space to teach the students, a space to exercise the students, and a small storage closet. And even if a small storage closet isn't available, I can bring supplies back and forth. But as far as payment for the program, or any students paying for the program, or the school paying for the program, no, sir.
Okay, I have one concern, and not with the program necessarily right now. And this is kind of a catch-22 situation. We're looking at this as, it's a student-based program, no question about that. However, we're looking at an outside agency, in a way, coming in to use our facility, which we just voted against until the middle of January. So even though it's and we do have some other volunteers, obviously, that come in to help with our after-school programs and after-school activities that go on. This is obviously an outside agency that certainly wants to come in and help our students, but we just voted against that, at least from now until the middle of January. So I'm not sure whether that puts us into an area where we have to, we can support the concept, but we may have to wait to do an implementation. I'm not really sure. Charlene, you had something that you wanted to...
Whoops. Okay, now you can hear me. Let's see, and now it's Lieutenant Wood, am I correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. Going back to Jim Pittman's question about whether this program would be used for recruitment, and you said no, but when I'm looking at the benefits in the handout we received, it talks about from the instructor, it says instructor experience in teamwork, management, engineering, military, and motivational influencing. And I can't see any other way to look at that as anything other than, if not overtly recruiting, at least encouraging that. And I appreciate the fact that you work for a defense contractor. But I also know that when you're talking about then educate students of the opportunities after high school, i.e. Raytheon, Viega, Advanced Tree, Shipyard, we have a very successful, effective guidance department. And every year, at least pre-COVID, we have wonderful job fairs. We have the opportunity for, I'm sure, various branches of the military, they come in and they can recruit. So because we already have, it seems to me that most of what this program is offering, we already do. And so I guess I'm wondering, since it reads as if it's similar to junior ROTC, and other than the funding, which is the big difference. And, the district has never been interested in bringing that in, so I guess I'm kind of wondering why, now that we're in the middle of a pandemic, would we want to do that? So that's the first thing is clarification on your answer that this would not be used for recruitment. And also, it seems as if there's a certain amount of redundancy in what your program is offering. And I also noticed that you're including DARE, which, it's been years since it's been in any of our schools because it was shown to be ineffective. So I was wondering why, in addition to, my other questions needing clarification, I was wondering why you're including a program that was shown to be ineffective.
Sure. So to your first point, yes, we have experience in the military. We have our instructors, some of our instructors are indeed in the military. But we're here to give career opportunities. And our experience is giving a career opportunity or information about what we do, and some of our instructors are in the military, and that's the career opportunity that they're going to talk about. However, the program is designed to builds students' confidence and builds students' knowledge in order to make informed decisions. Whether their career opportunity that they want to pursue is the military or not, we're not going to sway them in that career opportunity. But we are there to talk about it, and if that's something that they desire and that's something that they want to do, then we've informed them how to make smart decisions, and that's the route that they would go down. But in no way are we recruiting. And can you repeat the second portion of that, ma'am?
Well, one of the things I was wondering about is why you've included DARE.
Sure. So I think it's important to talk about it, not necessarily the actual DARE program, but to have a drug abuse prevention program. Once again, every curriculum topic that we may address is based on the wants and needs of the students. If the students come in based on Kennett High School, we did a survey. We put 15 curriculum topics in the survey, and it came back that they wanted to know more about drug prevention and drug response. So that's why we included it. For example, if this school district came back and the students said, I don't find it interesting, I don't want to know about it, or we already have a program that talks about that, then that's fine. We won't use that curriculum. It's just made for a menu of tailorable curriculums.
So when you refer to the DARE program, you don't necessarily mean the DARE program. You mean something that looks like it or is more effective?
I wouldn't say more effective. That program is effective, and it was effective when I was in school. I put it on there as a Sim 2, so that way everyone kind of understood what we would work towards. But it wouldn't be the DARE program coming in. We have our own internal drug prevention organization.
Okay, and could you help me understand what you mean by military and motivational influencing?
Sure. So that's the experts of the instructors. So our instructors are experts in the military due to the fact that they are in the military. One of the instructors that we're working with right now is a full-time employee in the military, and he helps me instruct the students. And that's his role, is that he's in the military and helps me instruct. One of the instructors just taught a knot tying class, and he's a climber and a mountaineer. So we do have military experience, and that's where that comes from, ma'am.
Okay, I appreciate your answer that your instructors are military. That's fine. I guess I'm not hearing exactly what you mean when you've written military and motivational influencing. So what is, when you talk about military influencing, what does that mean?
Well, so those are two different topics, right? So we have experience in the military, and we have experience being motivational influencers. So some of our instructors, their desire is to be motivational speakers, and that's where that motivational influencer comes into play. That's independent of one another.
Okay, so maybe we're just missing a comma. His military is capitalized. It says instructor experience in teamwork management, engineering, comma, military and motivational influencing. So I think what you're saying is that the instructors have military experience, but that's not how I was reading it. So thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay, while the discussion, I did get a text message from someone that asked a question, and this isn't directed for you, Lieutenant, but would DECA and future business leaders be equivalent to this program? Those are two programs that we already have in our vocational center. And I don't know the exact answer to that. Obviously, there's certain components that you're offering that aren't in those programs right at this point in time. But it's something I think we have to kind of look at to see, whether there's a lot of duplication of effort on certain areas of the programs that are out there. What I'd recommend at this point, and again, I think this is not to say I'm not in favor or against the program one way or the other. I think it would be appropriate for us to look at that question that just came through, understand the program a little bit better, and maybe just table any kind of vote on this until our December meeting. I think we have we got some homework to do here. This is brand new to us. And I think it would make sense for, in 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to meet again for our December meeting. And I think if we discuss it then and have a little more time to understand the program, see how it interacts with the programs that we currently have, I think we can make a much better decision. And that's my recommendation, but go ahead, Charlene.
This is not particularly a question for Lieutenant Wood, but in the past, whenever we have various organizations that want to come in and either do a survey or make a presentation to our students or form a new club, the board, as I recall, has required that we have a chance to vet the material and vet the surveys, and so I would just think that at the very least, there would be a curriculum that is laid out that we would have a chance to look at before we decided whether or not we wanted to pursue it.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable? I think it is.
I do. I think any other comments? I think that just makes a lot more sense. And again, I think the program on paper looks great. You certainly explained yourself this evening. I just think we need a little more time to evaluate where we are with this and whether we want to go forward with it or not.
Certainly, in the meantime, we can reach out to Kennett and ask them.
Yeah, I think that discussion, we always like to reach out to other districts if they have a program going that might be beneficial for our students. And I think if we can reach out to Kennett and find out, how they feel the program is going as well, I think that's more benefit to us to know that, and certainly more beneficial for us to make a decision that would benefit our students if that seems to be the appropriate way of moving forward. So I guess what I would suggest is, rather than making a motion to approve, I would ask for a motion to table until our December meeting.
I'll make that motion to table the decision to go forward. But in the meantime, possibly look at doing a survey to the students.
Mm-hmm.
If they would be interested, checking with Kennett to get material and look at the material, their teaching material, and then we'll have a better understanding when we go forward.
Are you adding that last part to your motion? Because
Well,
I'm not sure we should send out a survey to students until we know more about the program.
Well, I know Kathy had asked for some direction, so part of that was,
Well, I think we can, I guess maybe the motion should be to table, and then the back on what we do to
Yeah.
prepare ourselves would be not a motion
the simple
necessarily,
part
but
is
just a
table.
direction for to
And we're
get more
tabling it
information.
because it's on the agenda as an action item,
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay.
So we'll make this as, to me, I think it just makes sense at this point. Do I have a second to table? Okay, so Wendy's going to second. Okay, so all those in favor of tabling the motion at this point?
Any
So
discussion?
tabling the,
Any discussion?
yeah, sure.
Dare in the presentation? Or did you just use?
Did you see the word dare in the paperwork?
This dare.
On the accuracy.
Sorry, what?
This district tries to do everything they can, drug use or alcohol use.
Yes.
So I look at this as just one part. And when you see Carroll County meetings with people who say DARE didn't work, well, I just don't know what does work. And I know DARE worked for me. Just saying no worked for me. So DARE does work in some cases. But we're not talking about DARE. Just want to make sure. We're not talking. DARE is an old term, isn't it?
Right, and right now, Dana, we're not really talking about the content of this. This is something that we have to take a look at. I think right now, we're talking about
Yeah, but
really just delaying a vote on this until our December meeting.
we have to vote on accuracy.
Well,
You see the word DARE.
and that's why we'll have a month to look at, you know, all the details and, you know, move forward at that point in time. So,
Dana, I apologize if I created any confusion, because I should have said drug abuse resistance education. It's my understanding that the acronym DARE stands for drug abuse resistance education. So if I'm mistaken about that, I'm sorry.
okay, so, all right, so we, right now, we have a motion on the floor to, again, we're not saying no to the program, but we're just saying we really need a little more time to do this and to analyze what we're going to do or not do. So the motion on the floor is just to table an official vote on this until our December meeting. Is that understood? Okay, any other comments then? All right, so let's vote on tabling until our next meeting. Krista? Julianne? Tim? Wendy? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman? Charlene? Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Lieutenant Wood, thank you very much for your presentation, and, you know, we're going to do our homework, our due diligence on this, and we'll bring this back as an agenda item on a December meeting.
Understood. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is school athletics. Our athletic director, Aaron House, is here tonight to talk with the board about a proposal for winter sports. And Aaron, I know that this has been a real tough season for you too. Just like for all of us, this is new and different, and it's been a trying time. So I thank you for all that you've been doing to make things, the activities safe for our students. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, thank you very much for having me here this evening and giving me the opportunity to speak with you all again on behalf of the athletic department. First, I'd actually like to congratulate the school board, the superintendent, both administrative teams at the high school and middle school for delivering a safe, memorable, and meaningful experience for our student athletes by approving fall sports. I'd like to thank our 350-plus student athletes who displayed incredible vigor during their fall seasons, all of whom wore our uniform with pride. I'd like to thank the student athletes' families. We had parents, guardians, grandparents, friends of families, all helping to get the student athletes to practices and games all fall. It was really great to see. Also want to thank Marion Belanger, Transportation Department. They really were a huge piece of making this happen, and I can't thank her enough. I think I owe her a Dunkin' Donuts gift card, at least a couple. And lastly, I just want to congratulate and thank all of our fall coaches. The resilience of our coaching staff this fall was second to none in the state, and because of them, we were able to see our kids represent our communities in the sports of bass fishing, cheerleading, cross country, field hockey, football, golf, boys and girls soccer, and volleyball. So again, thank you, coaches. Shifting gears, this brings our attention to the upcoming winter season. I've put my recommendation together for your review, and I believe that we should be allowed to pursue winter sports in the same manner that we did for fall sports. Our approach will continue to be measured, cautious, and provide flexibility for our community. It's very important to me, as it was when I made the presentation for fall sports. Everyone here tonight, viewing from home or perhaps watching later, understanding that the recommendation from my office to the board is the same recommendation that I would make to family and friends. It's my belief, as it was in the fall, that we have the resources, a dedicated coaching staff, incredible student athletes along with their families to make winter sports a reality. Our aim continues to have the best solution for our community, given the current situation. So tonight, I'd like to answer any questions that you may have regarding the proposal, and I hope that we can see a motion made to allow the kids to enjoy winter sports activities and allowing Mrs. Cuddy Egbert, Mr. Donnelly, Mr. Riley, and myself to move forward with winter sports as outlined. Thank you.
Okay, discussion on the winter sports programs. Do we have any discussion? Okay, what we're looking for is a motion to allow the winter sports as presented. Obviously, these are indoor sports activities as opposed to outdoor sports activities, which is somewhat of a concern for me. I'm not. I know there are other opportunities for children out there to participate in sports. What's happening out there across the state of New Hampshire now is troubling to me. With the cold season coming in and everybody moving indoors, it is a concern of mine. So that's kind of my opinion. I'd like to hear if there's any other comments from any of the other board members. Charlene?
Hi, Erin. Thank you for being here. I have a quick question, and it goes to on page 2 of the proposal. The last little bullet point says, as of October 29th, 2020, NHADA, that's New Hampshire Athletic Directors Association. Is that what NHADA stands for?
Yes.
Okay. It says they confirmed with New Hampshire DHHS that there are no COVID-19 cases on record at the state level as a result of NHIAA high school sports. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have some positive cases in this district among our student athletes?
The positive case that I'm aware about was a case that happened at an outside athletic activity outside of an NHIAA sporting activity.
So didn't we have to have someone quarantined?
We did have a positive case, and that there was a student that needed to quarantine that was on one of our teams.
Okay, and didn't we get information about some other athletes in other school districts that had had positive cases?
I think probably as of October 29th, that was accurate. I think some things have changed since then. We have a few districts that are fairly close by that have seen some cases. One of them being Winnisquam Regional and the other one being Merrimack Valley. I believe Winnisquam Regional was football and soccer, and Merrimack Valley was soccer, and there was also a case with the girls' volleyball team.
But wasn't our confirmed case prior to October 29th? I thought it was.
Yeah, again, the case that we experienced wasn't, it was from an outside sporting event. The student participates on multiple teams, and from what I understand, that happened at a sporting event or an activity that's not regulated by the NHIAA or Kingswood.
So, okay, so I'm having a hard time trying to sort through and understand. So, the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services said that there were no COVID-19 cases as a result of high school sports? How can that be when we know we had one here?
Well, again, the individual that had to quarantine, it was a result of not playing high school sports. It was a result of an outside activity.
Yeah,
So in other words,
Yeah, Charlene, I think what we're trying to get to is that when you have like Seacoast Athletic Association or some of these others, these students, the student athletes, you know, play on our teams, but also play for these other outside organizations on weekends or when they're not playing for the school activities. And this particular student contacted COVID outside of the Kingswood athletic program. So he was a Kingswood student participating in a sport, but that sport was not during the Kingswood process. He was participating in a sport in an outside organization. And we talked about it at the last meeting. Regardless of what we do here, there are some students that are going to play high school sports, and when they're not playing high school sports, they're going to play for teams in different outside athletic associations, which we have no control over. So that's the conflict between what we do as the protocol for COVID and maybe what other sports athletic associations do. And again, that's a parental decision to allow their students to play on both sides of the, both sets of teams. This particular student contacted the COVID outside of the Kingswood program. So if NHIAA or the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services says there was no high school sports-related COVID cases, which I can't believe that that's true across the state. But if they said that and a case comes up, it could very well be from one of these outside organizations where the student was playing as opposed to playing their actual high school sports program team. So that's I think what the difference is here. Yes, Julianne.
Thank you and your staff for a great fall season. I know my kids enjoyed it and all of their friends enjoyed it, and I thought your coaches and your staff did an excellent job keeping our students and our parents safe. I would fully support winter sports under the program you've laid out here.
Thank you.
I would make a motion.
Okay. Okay. All right. Wendy is going to make a motion to support. I'm sorry, Julianne. What did I say? God. All right. Julianne makes a motion, and I got you right on the sheet here, but and Tim seconded it? Okay, Tim seconded. So the motion on the floor is to support the athletic department's request to move forward with the winter sports program as presented. That's what's on the floor right at this point. Hang on, let me just check my messages here just a second, sorry. Okay, this is from somebody on YouTube. They said, I'd like to know how we can safely do sports with the numbers rising so rapidly and the governor's warning today about community spread. So that's, again, a question that just came through on the my account. So any other comments on the winter sports program? Yes, Jim.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here this evening again and giving us this presentation. When the question came before us for fall sports, I supported it. And to explain my support was that I thought it offered us our best possible approach to maintaining some degree of safe control. And, you know, the argument that, well, you know, if we don't have it, they're going to go out, and they're going to go elsewhere, and there will be no control. And the explanation to Charlene's question, I think, was possibly a example of that the student in question was elsewhere and contracted a case or got a positive reading. I think we're heading into a difficult time with the virus. I hope that we'll be vigorous with maintaining these types of precautions that I think have worked pretty well, apparently. You know, sports has been identified nationally as a conduit for the virus to enter a school in a community. I will draw our attention to the Notre Dame-Clemson game over the weekend. For those who don't know, the winning team, Notre Dame, everyone rushed down to the field, and it was a worst-case scenario in terms of social distancing. And those things happen. But hopefully we'll be able to maintain the type of control over this that we don't have to worry about those sort of things. So I just want to kind of state my support, but also just to let us all know that we have to be always vigilant. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Charlene.
I just realized that there was another thing I wanted to ask you, Aaron. Looking at the gymnasium seating for the winter season, it looks as if there are spaces for three people in between the pairs of family members. Does that represent 6 feet?
Yeah, so every seat is approximately 2 feet. So when we measured that out, that would be 6 feet in between where the yellow seats begin and end.
Do we not have bleachers in the gym anymore? Do we still have bleachers?
Yeah, these are bleachers.
So when you say seats, you're talking about space where people can, you know, sit.
It's a bench seat, no back.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a daughter who played basketball. I just thought maybe I had missed something. And so, okay, and there'll be 6 feet between each pair? Is that correct?
Yeah, and the intention is that the pair is the immediate family members only of players there. Mhm.
Understood. Okay, and then, so even though it's showing 3 seats, is it going to be delineated the way we've tried to do it in here?
As far as where we place people for a game?
Well, it's so that everybody knows that, oh, by the way, you know, you're not supposed to, you know, you're supposed to stay within your little area 6 feet away from everybody else or from the next people.
Yes, it would be. We'll have, you know, the public PA announcer say things like that before the game. But more than that, we're going to take time with our families. Based on the regional game schedule that we've come up with for basketball, our teams wouldn't begin until essentially the middle of January. So we have time to, you know, talk to our families, make sure that it's just, you know, 2 people that want to come. And then we're going to actually invest in season passes, and they will have the row number and the row letter and the seat number on those passes. So when they come in, we'll scan their temperature like we did for volleyball, and then just remind them that, you know, you have reserved seating. Please only sit in your reserved seats.
And do you have a plan to deal with the hopefully very small percentage of folks who might not want to wear masks?
No mask, no entry.
Okay.
Yeah. And the volleyball parents were amazing. I don't know if I saw one parent not wearing a mask. I thought everyone was so just happy to have sports that we didn't have to deal with a whole lot of that. We had a couple issues outside because I think people felt like because they were outside they didn't have to, and I had the pleasure of stopping a game and reminding everyone to put their masks on at one of the games. So yeah, I mean, no mask, no entry for indoor events.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a couple of other text messages. One message, and again, I want to read these to make sure that people are heard tonight. How does the sports decision relate to not allowing others in the school facilities? We are now letting people in from all around the state. This just increases the exposure for our community. If we cannot open schools fully for our kids, how do we allow cross-district access and contagion? That's one. If winter sports are canceled, the number of Kingswood students going to other sports activities outside Kingswood Regional High School will dramatically increase. It's hard to justify indoor sports while teaching remotely due to the inability to maintain social distancing. This makes no sense to me given the confined space and lack of personal protective equipment. Let's see, how can we safely do sports with numbers rising so rapidly? And governor's warning, that was the same comment as before. So obviously the comments I'm getting is, you know, how can we justify indoor sports and inviting people from all over the state or even around the Lakes region to come into our building when our building is basically closed to outside individuals for other activities.
Jack, I support the sports. I think honestly, the state itself, the way the numbers are going, they're gonna shut it down anyway, so I'm in support of the sports, but I know that you could just see that we are gonna be governed by the government to close down sports due to the rise of the COVID cases. So in concept, I support this, but I can just you can see that by the governor, we will probably have another executive order that will have to shut it down anyway. So in concept, I believe going forward, based on the numbers here, you know, substantial is around us, so I'm supporting it conceptually, but knowing full well probably will be mandated by the state chancellor anyway. So again, I want to give the kids an opportunity to try, knowing full well what will happen.
Okay, so somebody just said they couldn't necessarily hear Wendy. However, Wendy is in support of winter sports with the understanding that if the COVID hits, it will probably be shut down anyway. So for that person that didn't hear, that's basically what you were saying, correct, Wendy? That you support the concept at this point. However, knowing that if the COVID cases continue to increase, our sports programs will be shut down. Another parent just said, you know, if my student can't play for Kingswood, he'll play on another team. And let's see, I'm trying to want to make sure I get as many of these people on. What precautions are in place to keep the athletes safe? How do we keep players socially distanced during a basketball game? I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I think the same concepts that applied in the fall season is what we're going to be dealing with during games. During the winter, the kids are going to be playing. Of course, the kids from both teams are screened before entry. They have their temperatures taken. I also had a great meeting with Phil Cousteau regarding the air exchange system in the gymnasiums. Actually learned something, which is great. And he was sharing with me that the air in all three gymnasiums, but in this case the gym in the high school, where our games are being played, it exchanges 11,000 cubic feet a minute and monitors CO2 levels, so it kicks on and actually pushes more fresh air in the building and pulls the old air outside. And when I asked him if there was a manual override on the CO2, he said, yes, there is. You can actually have it operating at 100%. You just have to manually override it. So to answer that question, Jack, that's one thing I'd like to do at Kingswood is have that overridden so we are exchanging that air as quickly as that system can do for the kids and everyone in the building.
Another comment, again, I want to make sure all these get out there tonight because this is a tough decision. It's hard to understand why we're going to continue sports, but my kindergartner is unable to return to school full-time and learn how to read. So again, here another voice out there, wondering how we can move forward with sports, but not do a full in-school opening for their kids. And that's the next topic on our agenda, obviously. The state approves full-time sports, but likely will shut down sports. Kingswood, however, doesn't have full-time school, but it's going to recommend sports. Makes no sense. So without full-time school, why are we opening schools for sports? Let's see, I think I just got another one. Will unified basketball be available if we allow winter sports? My student has learned and grown so much from the unified teams. I guess that's the question.
Yes, we've got a preliminary regional schedule for unified basketball.
Okay, we got a motion to call the question here, or a request to call the question. So at this point, I think, we've certainly heard discussion. I think we've gotten a lot of text messages, pro and con. Basically, yeah, if we're going to do sports, we should open school fully. If we're not, a lot of different concerns. But at this point, we'll call the question and ask for a vote. And the motion on, yes, Jim.
There's a lady.
Yes. Ordinarily, this isn't a time for public input. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes to ask your questions. Hang on a second. Because we're doing, and this is being broadcast, please go up to the mic and ask your question directly in the mic so the people that are watching this can hear your question, and then Aaron can respond to it.
Hello, there we go. So I have a couple questions for Aaron. One is, I'm just curious about hockey, just because we know that hockey actually is a high transfer of COVID, and our state actually shut down hockey and had to do all that contact tracing and had to do all of the testing due to hockey. So I guess I'm curious, especially with when you said the basketball, the air in the gym goes out, it's a different situation. When you're talking about the hockey arena, the moisture in the air stays. There's no transfer of air during the hockey games. So I guess I'm curious about that. And then the second thing is that I'm curious if we can make a rule or think about doing something. So if our children are doing club sports and high school sports, can we just say, like, okay, if you're doing a club sport, you can't do the high school sport? Because now we're cross-breeding within, and I have a child who did club sport, and we canceled the club sport so he can just do a high school sport this winter. So I'm just wondering if, because we're saying our one case that happened, that could have come in here and transferred everything, if we do one or the other. If the child's on a club sport, just stay on your club sport. If they want to be in high school, but why do they even need to do both during COVID? Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, all right, before Aaron gets back up there, just a couple. One person is just asking why we allowed public input. And again, if this person had been home, she could have texted her admissions to us. She's here in the audience, so I felt it appropriate to give her the time to ask her question. If she had texted me, I would have asked her question from the text message. So I think that was an appropriate thing for me to do. Aaron, if you'd like to address her question.
So, Bobby, thank you for having Jackson stay with Nordic Ski and not do his travel sport. We appreciate that. So I don't know if we really have any, I don't have any jurisdiction on saying to a kid or a family, you have to play only Kingswood sports. If that was something that, on the condition of this motion, the board wanted to pass, I certainly would adhere to it. And I think, again, it just starts with conversations with family and coaches and kids talking about, okay, this is how we have to do our season. Again, it's a unique time. So I'll leave that to the school board to decide if that's something they want to, attach on to the motion. As far as hockey, some of you may know, may not know, pretty involved with hockey. Coach my kids' Bantam team and my daughter's U10 team, both at Back Bay here in town. So obviously, as our own family, we've had questions about hockey rink and, what can you do to do safe. I mean, all of our off-site sports, so hockey, alpine skiing, Nordic skiing, we are going to have to go above and beyond just what our own rules are here at the school. We're going to need to understand what their COVID guidelines are. I've actually got King Pines printed out in my office. I've got Mount Cranmore's printed off my office, and I've had 5 or 6 versions come from Pop Whalen, and the most recent one is the most strict in the state. They're requiring kids to wear masks, not just during transitions like most of the rinks are doing, but also requiring it on the bench and when you play. I have my own opinions about kids wearing masks and high-intensity exercises like that, but that's the rink rule, and Kingswood Hockey will adhere to it. As far as the air exchange in Pop Whalen, that's a great point. It is an old rink. I know that they have several ideas on how to get it updated. But as of right now, I know they've got those exhaust fans, and I think I'd probably have to ask them how they're using that. Typically, it's to get the Zamboni fumes out of the rink. So again, maybe that can be turned on all the time, and maybe that helps. So that's a question. That's what I was writing down, so I can ask Christine Collins at Park and Rec Department, what she can share on that. So I think in the end of all this, if I'm going to have the last word here at the mic tonight, all I'm really asking for is to give the winter athletes the same opportunity we gave to fall athletes. We got to take it day by day. I agree with Wendy. I mean, the way things are trending, who knows? But it gives the kids, hope. It gives them one more day of practice, one more day with their friends, and an opportunity to represent our community to the best of their abilities, whether it be a practice or an interscholastic competition. So that's really, I think, what the athletic department is looking for, is giving those kids that same opportunity.
Thank you, Aaron. A couple more texts, and again, I want to make sure in this particular time we give everybody an equal opportunity here. This was from a student, and I have to be careful the way I say this here. As a student, why can't you just let us play? Sports will do more good for students than shutting down sports for a virus that has a death rate of 0.2%. Live a little. Again, I wanted to, exactly the way it was written. That's not my opinion, obviously. And another one that just came in, we should look at the CDC guidelines. These are the current CDC guidelines. Lowest risk performing skill building drills on conditioning or conditioning at home, alone or with family members. Increasing risk team-based practice, more risk within team competition, even more risk full competition between teams from the same local geographic area, highest risk full competition between some different geographic areas. We're heading to the high-risk categories. Again, I want to read it exactly the way it's coming in tonight. Okay, I think we're done at this point as far as taking additional comments, and it's been asked that we call the motion. So the motion on the floor is to support the winter athletic program as presented, and we'll take a roll call vote. Krista. Okay, Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene? Dana? And chair votes no. It's a 5-4 positive, so we will go forward with fall sports and a 5-4 vote. Thank you, Aaron.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. The next item is a discussion of fully reopening. School board members, you'll recall that at the school board meeting in October, I was asked to bring to the board what the plan for fully reopening would look like. Within that same discussion, there was a question of when the district would be likely to be fully remote. I was also asked more recently for financial information to go along with that. So in order to provide a picture of what things will look like to reopen and what it would look like in order to consider 3 categories: fully open, hybrid, and then remote. Because I think the big question on everyone's mind was, not that we do have a reopening plan, and our reopening plan is on the website, but beyond the reopening plan, what could people be have a little bit more concrete in front of them about, all right, what does it look like if we have to go remote? What are the conditions? Same thing for hybrid and the same thing for full return. So in your packet, you'll find the rubric, not the rubric, the metrics that were designed for our last meeting. You had an opportunity to take a look at those, and they were the combination of the CDC guidelines and the guidelines from our state Department of Health and Human Services. So those give us an idea of the numbers. And what I did for the rubric is to translate that into something that would be a little bit more concrete for the school board to look at and considering when we would want to be either full return, hybrid, or full remote. There are 6 areas of consideration. One is community transmission. The second would be positive COVID results in school. The third is staff absenteeism. The fourth, student absenteeism. And then the 5th, ability to implement the sanitization and mitigation protocols according to the reopening plan and the Department of Health and Human Services guidelines. And then finally, the number and frequency of closing due to positive cases. So if you look at the full return column, you'll see that the first area is number of cases is in the lowest or mid-range lower risk of the transmission on the metrics tool. So if you refer to the metrics tool, you can see that there are columns that say lowest, lower, moderate, higher, and highest. So the 2 lower categories would be what we would be wanting to look at for a full return. The next is COVID positive results in school, and the confirmed cases would need to be rare and involve little or no disruption to the in-person school schedule. Staff absenteeism, the school is able to provide coverage and manage absenteeism with no significant impact to instruction. Student absenteeism, students are attending at a rate that does not interfere with consistent instruction. The next one would be the mitigation strategies, so that we would have a full custodial staff able to fulfill the guidelines with all the students in school, and all the mitigation strategies can be implemented. And then the last one is number of and frequency of closings due to COVID positive cases, and it would be 1 or 2 closings for a day or 2 at a time. And not everything in this column, obviously this is a judgment call, but I think it provides a picture and something a little bit more concrete than what we've had. Under hybrid, it would be the number is approaching or in the moderate risk or higher risk of transmission on the metrics tool, that the confirmed cases are a few and spread out over time and may result in some shorter periods of remote learning for classes and cohort groups. The next one is staff absenteeism. The school is able to provide coverage and manage absenteeism. However, the rate is having a negative impact on instruction. Student absenteeism, and that would be student absenteeism is impairing the ability to manage consistent instruction. Next is custodial staff has the ability to keep up with most protocols in the reopening plan, and most mitigation protocols can be implemented. And then a few closings in a few schools for a few days at a time. Next column is full remote. Number is approaching or in the highest risk of transmission on the metrics tool. The confirmed cases are increasing steadily and are at a level where instruction cannot be sustained in person. The level of staff absenteeism is too high to effectively manage instruction. Student absenteeism is too high to effectively continue instruction in the hybrid model. The maintenance department is not able to keep up with many of the requirements in the reopening plan, and most mitigation strategies cannot be implemented. And finally, number and frequency of closings. There would be multiple closings among multiple schools for more than a few days. So really, I think the thing that is going to influence us toward fully remote is primarily going to be staff. We have right now 15 or 16 staff members that are in quarantine as the cases go up, and we have been able to keep, thankfully, to keep our schools open. We had a case in 5th grade at New Durham, so we had 2 staff members that are remote because they're quarantining, but we were able to contact trace and see that only a very few children were impacted, and so we were able to keep the school open. Even though Middleton is not Governor Wentworth, very similar thing in Middleton. We had 2 positive cases in Middleton, and the problem was staffing and finding substitute teachers, but we were able to isolate to just those 2 grade levels and to primarily provide remote instruction, although I have to say we have had a couple of days where the teachers were too sick to provide remote instruction and we didn't have a substitute. But again, we didn't have to close down the whole school, which I think is a great thing. So that's what it would look like in each of these areas, full return, hybrid, and full remote. Give some guidance, something a little bit more concrete, I think, for people to look at in knowing what those decisions look like. So, I will also say that I did pass this by our infectious disease person to make sure that it had credibility from a physician. So, he thought it looked fine. So do you have any questions about that, or should I go on to the financial
All right,
aspect?
I think if we move on to the financial piece right now, I think it kind of explains where we are, what we think we're going to need if we go full remote. Understanding that if we vote to move on to a full remote, we're talking about a maximum 3-foot distancing, because there's no way we can do 6-foot distancing in any of our schools. In every single classroom. So we go with 3-foot distancing, and that is not even effective in some areas, because we would have to break up additional classrooms in certain schools, and that's part of this financial package that's been put together. So Kathy can explain the financial package, but again, this is based on 3-foot distancing across the district.
So we're talking about 3-foot distancing and fully in person. So in your packet, you got a fully in-person resource list and costs associated with that. One of the first things on the list is a teacher needed to split a kindergarten class to achieve the 3-foot distancing for the kindergarten students. And so we based that cost, Kathy and I worked together on this, we based that cost on an average salary of $64,000 plus benefits and fixed costs for a $92,000 cost there. We have And the next column, 1 full-time equivalent teacher due to the need to split, again, to distance to achieve a class size that's manageable in grade 2, and another half-time FTE to fill in for special education teaching remotely. So in other words, when we split our teachers and have a remote group and an in-person group, it doesn't always add up to 1-to-1. So we do need an additional person in that one area. Proctors at the high school, the initial number I was given for proctors was 4. Certainly, we're going to have a very hard time. You have probably seen the list, particularly of paraeducators that we're advertising for, because we're having a hard time finding paraeducators and substitutes. So we would probably not be able to find the proctors and would need to reconfigure our staff some other way. Transportation department, we're in a similar situation there. The transportation is short of drivers and will need to repurpose the special education drivers and contract out the special education out-of-district runs. So in this case, we've got 3 runs for the cost per day is quite expensive when you have to contract out. And the total cost for those 3 runs for the rest of the year is $85,000. For in-person, we got some feedback from our custodial staff to see what it would take to clean double the desks and double the volume in the bathroom, in the bathrooms, and that we'd have to add an additional 24 hours, over the entire district for 120 days, and that includes vacation weeks. And that omits the Wednesday deep cleaning for $46,000. And then the other things to consider is the increased class size in the remote program is unknown. So if we should have a shift, we will probably need to repurpose some of our staff, and what that repurposing would look like, I can't tell you until I know exactly how many students would register for the remote versus the fully in-person. It looks from the initial survey like there would be quite a shift there. Just looking for those numbers.
But it went from roughly 24% to 31%.
Right.
From a percentage standpoint, I think we had 542, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah,
in remote.
Heather actually went through and took those numbers one by one. And so we have 52 elementary families that said their children would switch to remote, and 62 high school students who would switch to remote. And that's really only a part of the population that was surveyed. We only got 600 and something results on that survey. So I think we could expect a pretty significant shift, which means we would have to really look at what that means for our teaching staff, which we would do, if that's the way it goes, that's what we would do. We'd have to change some parent drop-off and pick-up, and of course, the custodial staff would have quite a job getting everything back to the way it was before with all the desks and everything and tables in class. So in addition to that, you had also asked that I provide some information on just what the unanticipated costs have been due to the pandemic. So you also have a list of that in your packet. The unanticipated costs have really been, in my mind, astronomical. The total expenses above what we would have done if we had not had a pandemic is $638,000 and $662. We did receive money from the federal government, the CARES Act, and the initial amount of money that we received was $539,000. Most folks probably don't know this, but a portion of that has to go to private schools. We're bound by the federal government to give a portion of that, as I said, to private schools. So the total, even though it looked like we were supposed to get $539,307, what really came to us was only $464,998. And of course, that leaves us with a negative as far as the money that was spent that was unanticipated, and right now that's $173,664. So you combine that with the additional costs, and we've got a pretty hefty total of about $606,000. Now, the state is saying that we may get an additional grant, and I hope that's the case, but even if we get that grant, it still won't cover the full amount. So, any questions on that?
Okay. So right at this point, we voted on, at our last meeting, to extend the hybrid model through the end of December. And that was prior to the last meeting with public input, looking to move to a full in-school process. We did vote to approve, stay with the hybrid model until December 31st, or through the end of the school year, the calendar year. Tonight, we could either change that, we can verify that, we can keep the hybrid model through the end of the February vacation. We can do whatever we'd like to do with that process, or we can vote to go full remote after the Christmas break and Christmas vacation. That's sort of where we are in this process, understanding that, you know, there's probably an additional $400 and some odd thousand that we're going to have to spend for staffing, if indeed we can find staffing. And with the comments that we heard, obviously, with the sports programs, we can go full in school at 3-foot opening, and then go full remote when we have to, because that looks like maybe that's the trend. Who knows? This is all foreign territory to all of us. With the numbers increasing the way they are, and again, even with the comments during the sports program, we can support it, but it might get shut down. We can certainly support full opening, but we might get shut down as well. So that's our choice, and what we're looking for is a motion today to either affirm our decision to keep hybrid through at least December 31st. And we, again, can reevaluate this at our December meeting to see where we are at that point in time, or extend it for an additional period of time. It's really up to the board to decide what they'd like to do. Any thoughts?
I would make a motion to come back to school full-time right after the holiday.
When?
Right after the Christmas holiday.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Julianne and Wendy, second, after a school vacation. Okay, any other discussion? Dr. Jim?
Last I heard, CDC has restricted this back to 6 feet. They removed the 3-foot because it was not considered safe. Now, if you want to consider that as the issue, we know we can't do 6 feet. So I just bring that to your attention. You cannot do 3 feet, but the CDC is not recommending it anymore.
Okay, so if we vote for this, we're just voting, we're voting to go with 3-foot regardless of the recommendation of the CDC. The CDC is not a mandate that we do 6 feet. It's a recommendation, correct? So it's not something that we have to do. It is the recommendation of the CDC that 6 feet is the safest distance, but we'd be voting to go with 3 foot if we approve this. Right?
I assume then that we're all going to be prepared to take the liability for that issue, correct?
Again, if the mandate was 6 feet, that would be one thing. There's not a mandate, it's just a recommendation, so we can vote to do whatever we want with it, and that's our...
Yes, Jack, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is this. Should you choose the 3 feet dimension, CDC's not recommending it, liability will be on us for the fact that we did not do what the recommended regimen was.
Yeah, I think the liability is on us to shut the schools down as soon as we have to, if we have to, and go fully remote. That would be where we, liability is an awkward word because we're not going to get sued for going 3 feet. If the parents understand that we're voting to go 3 feet, they can certainly choose to either have their students come at their discretion to school full-time, or they can go fully remote. So the onus then is on the parents to decide which way they want to go. Again, our vote is going to say we're going to support this with either 3 foot distancing, and the parents can make their decision, or we vote against it. That's basically what it is. But as far as the 6 foot or 3 foot, it's going to be up to the parents then to decide whether they want their students in the building at 3 foot social distancing or going to remote instead.
And I would just like, my favorite here.
Use the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jack. Is it? I think it is. Is it on? Yeah, okay, I can hear myself. So I guess what my whole point of supporting or seconding Julianne's motion is conceptually, I want to see us survey the parents and do some of the legwork to eventually open the school. As we all can recognize in watching the guidelines and what's happening across the state, obviously there's a significant spike here. I personally feel the governor is going to do an order that it's going to shut us down anyway, and we will be going fully remote. However, my point is, let's do some legwork. Let's do all the surveys, get what was in, and if, a miracle happens and, things have calmed down by the end of the first of the year, then we're able to pull that trigger significantly quicker than waiting again until March to open up the schools. I want us to be able to plan ahead and get a sense of what we can do if January comes and we are not in a substantial state of COVID anymore. Clearly, I see the numbers, I'm not ignorant to the fact of what is happening, but I want us to be able to execute this swiftly if it does become and swing the other way. That's the reason why I support this motion. Thank you.
Jim Pittman.
Thank you. I think the motion is premature as we're in the middle of a rapidly developing situation. And to say in January we're going to decide or commit to opening phones. Actually, I get a new sound system for this place. I don't know what's going on here. It's terrible. But I think that it's just too soon. It's sort of like going on a road trip and saying, well, in a half mile, I'm gonna turn the steering wheel slightly to the right. Well, how do you know what the road's going to be in a half mile? And I feel like we're in the same situation. We don't know in a couple of months where we're going to be. So, I mean, I'm not against the idea of it. I just don't know how we can make any decision based on facts at this point.
Yes, Julianne.
I think by going in this direction, we're giving the choice back to the parents. The parents can decide, keep their kids home, and they can be fully remote, or the parents can decide to send their kids back to school full-time. So we're giving the decision to the parents, where it should be.
Okay. Charlene?
I think it's important that we're mindful of the difficulties dealing with COVID-19 has created for our entire district, especially for families who have both parents who have to work outside of the home. But I do not feel that something of this magnitude should just, be left to the people who elected us to make the tough decisions. And I think that given the increasing numbers and the fact that your motion is not, it's not a motion to think about it and be ready to go. It's a motion to fully reopen as soon as everyone gets back from their Christmas vacations. And I cannot support that.
I have gotten a couple of texts in which I think we should read. I'm not going to read one of them at this point, but what is the timeline of the decision do parents have to commit to a quarter at a time? Again, that's something that we'd have to discuss as far as, if parents decide that they want to go fully remote, say as of January 1st or when we come back, can they change that 3 months down the road, or are they going to be remote for the balance of their school year? So that's another thing that needs to be discussed here. One of the things is, and again, this I've heard this before. Is there a chance of opening K-3 and leaving 412 in a hybrid model? Again, K-3 being the most vulnerable, younger kids that are just getting started and probably having a difficult time with the hybrid model. So that's another thing to discuss, but it's not part of this motion tonight. Let's see if there's anything else here. Could we consider a survey to see what option the students would prefer before, after all, we have the ones who are affected by this decision. We are the ones who would be affected by the decision. So, again, can we take a survey to see what options the students would prefer? Well, that's a parental, especially the olders, that's going to be a parental decision more than students, but let's see what else. Okay, as a parent and teacher, I do not support ignoring the CDC guidelines of 6 feet. Distance will be libel if students and staff got COVID because GWRSD ignored the CDC guidelines. I think, again, we talked about that. That's going to be a parental decision, whether they want to stay remote or put their kids in a full in-school situation. Let's see. We need to open elementary schools, leave the middle and high school hybrid. It's another option that somebody's throwing out. How can we vote to, again, start sports immediately with cross-community contamination and huge risks, but we can't vote to open schools immediately now? And it goes on to say the same, more about the same. Let's see. As a parent of a senior that will be pushed out the door next year while all of the students will have future time to make up lost education, I am against prioritizing K-6 ahead of older students. So it's, in that particular case, it's all or nobody. What about the holiday quarantine model? And that's something Kathy and I talked about just before. If we're looking at staying with the hybrid model after the first of the year, and we may not necessarily have to consider quarantining after the Christmas break. If we're going to full in-school after the Christmas break, if that's the timing, then it could very well be because of the number of people traveling during holidays, and now you have full in-school as opposed to the smaller cohorts, that we may have to consider maybe a 14-day quarantine period where we are maybe fully remote, for the first 2 weeks after the Christmas vacation. Some districts have already voted to do that based on the fact that a lot of families have said they're going to be traveling over the holidays and out of state, out of the New England area, and they're concerned about bringing stuff in from other parts of the country. So that's something that we'd have to consider as well. The risk, and I can't remember who made that comment, if you go from 6-foot social distancing to 3-foot social distancing and doubling the size, you're not just doubling the risk, you're quadrupling the risk. And that's just a mathematical process that you go through in, you know, increasing the risk of more, you know, more chance of the virus being in the schools. So those are some of the comments and some of the issues that are out there. You know, again, I don't want to leave these out, but okay, as a parent, please don't change what isn't currently broken. Do you know if it's going to snow on December 30th? I don't. How can we know if COVID will be better or worse by then? You know, again, it's an unknown. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then. It could be a lot worse, and you know, we could be changing direction at the last minute after the holidays. So the decision should be up to the parents. The school board should spend their time developing plans that provide families with options to make the decisions that work best for them. And again, I think we're doing that as best we can for either the hybrid model or the remote model. We're working very hard to provide the resources that we can give the best education possible under the circumstances. Charlene?
You know, we've been talking about letting parents make the decision. Who's making the decision for the staff members? Shouldn't the staff members have
Right.
you know, their concerns and you know, their particular health situations taken into consideration?
You're absolutely right, and I did get a couple of texts. I didn't want to get into too much of the detail from staff members, but there's certainly a concern from the staff that they're very uncomfortable being in the building at all if we go with 3-foot opening. They may opt to ask for remote because they don't feel comfortable in the classroom, and that's, you know, their right to make that decision as well. That you know, if we are voting to go against the CDC guidelines and we go off the approved plan that we had, some teachers are very very adamant that they do not want to be in the building and feel safe at a 3-foot opening.
Do we know offhand how many job openings we're currently advertising in the district?
The last time I looked, and I think there was like 30 some odd job openings between paraprofessionals, bus drivers, custodial staff, and other support staff. I think there's 30 some odd openings right now.
So if we decide to fully reopen, and we're going to have staff members obviously elect to teach remotely, how are we going to go fully remote when we don't have the staff?
Well, that's part of the issue. If we vote to move forward with a reopening plan, say full reopening as of January, between now and then we have to know how many teachers will not be in the building at 3 feet. We have to know exactly how many students will be going to remote as opposed to being in the classroom. That will certainly determine how many teachers we need in the buildings, how many teachers we need for remote. Also, how many additional staff, other types of staff members, whether it be proctors, whether it be paraprofessionals, special education teachers, whatever we need. The numbers that we looked at before certainly may change based on the teachers taking a position that they don't want to live within a 3-foot social distancing process. And if that's the case, you could have a significant number that want to go one direction, and we may have too many teachers that want to do remote, that just don't want to be in the classroom. And I'm not sure how you do that. Do you have a full inside classroom with a proctor and the teacher teaching from their home because they don't want to be in the classroom? I don't know if that's even a possibility. But so bring all the students into the classroom, let them sit there with a proctor, if we can find proctors or somebody to sit with the kids, and have the teachers teach from remote if they don't want to be in the classroom at 3-foot distancing. Again, I suppose that's another option that we could look at if we had to.
But if you refer back to the rubrics, it has the piece, if we're lacking staff, we'll go to whatever the option is. But if we don't vote to at least move forward to fully return, then that option's completely off the table. So, you know, if we at least move forward with getting all the items in place, we're that much closer. Granted, you know, there's several things, if you look at the rubrics, that may totally bump that train right off the rails. So, but we've got to start somewhere. The only thing that I would ask is that Julianne would reconsider her motion to change it to at least starting till after the 18th of January, giving that 2 weeks after the Christmas break.
So, okay, so in other words, the motion as it stands is that we're going to fully reopen January the 2nd, correct?
Right, and this would move it 2 weeks down beyond
And
that.
so you're suggesting we move it past that?
But we'd still come back under the remote, under the hybrid model on January 2nd.
I mean, I just,
So we had
Okay, the problem I see with that, well, it's a decision we'd have to make as a district then. If we're going to take that position, then we would have to have all of the classrooms set up for full in-school during Christmas vacation. Because we can't do hybrid, and then the next week go to full in-school if the classrooms aren't already set up. So that would have to be a priority, that all classrooms would have to be set up to accept full in-school by January 2nd, even though we're going to stay hybrid then from January 2nd to the 14th or 18th or whatever that day is, Monday the 18th, I guess it would be.
in and out, weird. It was working. Dr. Jim, did you break this mic? I just want to make sure I understand what we're about to vote on. What we're about to vote on is a motion to have us go into fully in-person learning on January the 2nd.
That's the motion currently on the floor.
Got it.
Right. And the amendment to that, or the modification of that would be, is it Monday, the 18th? Is that a Monday?
correct.
So
Now we're gonna vote- now we're gonna be voting on an
it would now
amendment?
be, the motion on the floor would be to go to full in-school as of January 18th and leaving remote through the Friday before, which would be January 15th. So
Okay,
we-
so you're amending the motion to move it from January the 2nd to January the 18th?
Correct.
So we'll vote on the amendment and then vote on the motion?
Well, the motion hasn't been, there's really, yeah, I guess there would be the amendment to change
So
that.
let Julianne talk.
Okay, so we're going to have an amendment.
So I amend my motion to start school on January 18th.
Start full in school January 18th. That's the amendment to the original motion. So we have a
19.
okay, we have moved and seconded to amend the motion to full in-school as of January 18th. So we'll vote on that amendment first. We haven't voted that we're going to go full in school yet. This is just to change the
changing the
dates from the original motion. So all those in favor of changing the original motion from the 2nd to the 18th, again, not voting to approve full in school, but just changing the date of when that might start, is on the 18th. Okay, so we'll vote on that first.
Yeah, the actual holiday is the 18th, so it'd be
It would
the first day is the 19th.
Okay, actually, okay, so the amendment will be the 19th based on the 18th being a national holiday. Okay? So it's the 19th. Got it? Okay, so we're going to vote on changing the original motion to all in school, if voted that way, would start on January 19th. Krista, what do you think? No? Okay, Julianne?
Yes?
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman? Charlene? Dana? And chair votes no, but that's 5-4. So the amendment passes, so the modified motion now is that full in-school reopening would take place on January 19th. That's the official motion on the floor now. Additional comments? Mr. Pittman?
Yeah, my question is, does anybody have an idea as to how early one would set the wheels in motion to make this happen on that date? I mean, how long would that take?
My gut feeling is if we vote to approve this tonight, that as of tomorrow, we have to get the surveys put out, we have to contact parents as far as the, having them understand that we have 3-foot distancing, that they have to make a decision if it's going to be in school or fully remote, and we have to have a timeline, say within a week to 10 days to get that information back so we know exactly what numbers we're dealing with. Same thing with the teachers, how many teachers would not be comfortable in the classroom at 3 foot, whether they could teach their classes on a remote process where they would be home but their students would be in the classroom, and how many proctors or how many support staff that would require. Those are all things that, and we would have to put this together, I think, by within the next 10 days to be able to go out and try to find the necessary staff that would be necessary to make this happen.
Well, to me, this seems like an awful lot of effort for something that has a huge element of uncertainty.
That's very true, but we have to do the homework to, if we come back, if we can get this process done, and we come back at our December meeting and say, you know, you find the people, we can't find them, and there's no way we're going to have the staff to do this process, then we're going to have to revisit what we voted on, because if we can't bring our students back and have teachers in the classroom or teachers available or enough staff members to do this, what are we doing? It's not going to make any sense at that point, so we're going to have to revisit. But the only way this is going to work is if this is what we want to do, we've got to get all the pieces together to see what are our actual needs to pull this off. And you're absolutely right. If this happens, and all of a sudden we have to go fully remote, and then some of the staff members that we may be looking for, we're not going to need necessarily. We don't know. But until we have all the numbers in place, we're not going to know that.
And certainly I feel the bottom line is if we don't at least vote to move forward with this, we're letting the students down, not the parents. We're letting the students down without giving them the option. So I think we need to vote, one way or the other.
Well, we have got, I mean, I think what Kathy put together, very good guidelines. It's not like we're saying we're not adhering to anything. You know, Kathy put together very comprehensive considerations for full remote, hybrid. It's not like we're saying no matter what, we're doing this. We have, if one block trips up, we can't do it anyway. But this at least gives us an opportunity to communicate with the parents of what they would like to see in the coming months.
Right.
Okay, Charlene?
I just want to make sure that, you know, everyone is clear that if we vote to go fully reopen on January the 19th, then we are ignoring the CDC guidelines and the 6-foot guidelines from not just the CDC, but a lot of other organizations that think that 3 feet social distancing is inadequate.
Right.
And, you know, I just want to emphasize that so that everyone in the district who is a stakeholder knows that that is one of the mitigation protocols we will not meet.
Right.
If we go fully reopened.
Right. And one of the texts I did get from one of the teacher surveys that was done is that about 60.5% of the teachers said they will not be in the classroom at 3-foot social distancing, that they would rather go remote. So 60% of our staff would rather be remote if we go with the 3-foot social distancing. That's just the facts. So, any more discussion? Okay, we're going to vote on the motion then, that the motion is to fully reopen our schools with 3-foot social distancing on January 19th. Krista? No. Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? No. Jim Pittman?
No.
Charlene? No. Dana? Chair votes no as well. So it's 6-3. The answer is no. Okay. Okay, so that's the end of that part. I think, Kathy, the next thing on the agenda is School Board Association. And the only other thing on the School Board Association that I'm aware of, and Kathy alluded to it before, that they're looking to put together our annual delegate assembly in some kind of a remote fashion. They are not, even if they did try to do social distancing, they're not allowed to use the facility that they're in down in Concord. So they're looking to put this together and making sure that they're hitting all the bylaw requirements and everything that they have to do in order to take a valid vote for any resolutions that are brought forward and anything else that comes before the annual meeting. So that's a challenge in itself. That's all I have there. Under the chairman's notes, expression of sympathies was sent to Steve and Michelle Capone on the passing of their sister-in-law, and expressions of sympathy to Terry Flynn Sullivan on the passing of her brother and mother, and congratulations wish to Kayla Croto on the birth of her daughter. That's all for me. Let's go to academic affairs.
Sure.
We got a lot to cover. Yes.
Sorry about that. We have several policies that need to come forward for final approval. It's AC, ACAA, ACAA-R, and let's see, ACAB, ACAB-R. All those were presented for first read the other previous school board meeting. It's regarding all the Title IX changes that had come into law, and we were just changing our policies to adhere to those. So I'd make a motion to accept those policies that I just presented as submitted and approved.
Okay, moved and seconded by Tim, and those will be voted on as a block, all 5 policies. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Krista? Yes. Julianne? Yes. Tim? Yes. Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? Yes. Jim Pittman? Charlene? Yes. Dana? Yes. Chair votes aye as well. Okay, and JHPB?
Yep. Oh, shoot, I forgot that one.
That's all right.
So,
It's got different letters to it, so.
Thank you, Jack. So also, again, to bring, sorry, JHBB for approval as well. It was presented for it just, what it does is, it's not related to COVID-related remote learning, and we take away the Blizzard bag, and we go right, and we just describe it as remote learning in general. So I'd make a motion to approve that as submitted.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve JHBB as presented. All those in favor, Krista? Yes. Julianne? Yes. Tim? Yes. Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? Yes. Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene? Yes. Dana? And chair votes aye as well on that. Okay, thank you for that.
Sure. And then for the first read tonight, we had EHAB. It's a data governance and security. Paul had done a great job with the plan, which is available on the internet, and it's really just the overarching policy that would go with the manual that he has put out on the internet. So that is the first read. And again, a first read for procedural was JCA, and that's for a school change in school assignment. And again, that policy is if a student wanted to change schools for various reasons. And again, that was just the procedural perspective of that, and it was available for first read this evening.
Excellent.
And I wanted to just say that we had Susan Merrill and Katie Hill come to the Academic Affairs meeting tonight, and they did a wonderful job just kind of giving us an overarching assessment of how remote learning has been going for the past first quarter. They're looking at different opportunities to communicate with some of the students as they feel overall the students are struggling to complete assignments when they are left for their remote days. And so they're trying to really peel into that and understand why the kids are struggling not to complete the assignments. And what they can do to foster some, different ways to have them do so. And I would say that, again, mental health seems to be on everyone's mind, and I want to thank the counselors, the teachers, the administrators, pointing out folks that need extra help, that I feel that the district is doing a wonderful job with the counselors and monitoring the students, and everyone's really, taking a step back and making sure everyone's trying to have the best day possible. And I just was really proud of how we are looking at the mental health and the impact of COVID. Again, looking at the matrix and rubrics that Katie and Susan are putting together to really, they have, it looks, I'm sorry, just reading my notes, they have reviewed K through 7 assignments and grades with administrators and staff, and then they're gonna reach out to the high school. But they're really trying to understand what is going on with the kids and why they, is it the technology that's slowing them down? Is it because their parents aren't with that, sitting by them? They're, most of the kids now, people are struggling with childcare, that they may be with grandparents that aren't technically savvy. Just trying to understand what we can do to further enrich the education, because hybrid can be difficult on some, but others, again, are striving. They're doing amazing work, and I would say listening to Katie and Susan talk about the collaboration for those teachers that are doing remote learning, it sounds like they really do feel like they have this online community, so I want to say hats off to the staff that seems to be doing a really good job with that. Thank you, Jack.
Excellent. Julianne?
We have an update. We must be generating power by now in Effingham, right?
Do we have any update on that, Kathy? You know? Is a switch on the top, maybe?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, I think you're on.
I'm on, sorry, after all of that, I can't take it out, there's no switch. We are generating power. There was connectivity with internet that's being worked on. I believe that is all up and running as of just the other day. Yes, I know, it's just been little, almost there, inches there. But yes, we're
Excellent.
generating power.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Okay, Finance, you'll notice down below, the Finance Committee meets next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at Crescent Lake School to review the budgets from the various administrators and the special ed department, and then the overall budget that will be presented in January December rather, for first reading, and January for final approval. And I have nothing for human resources. Again, advanced planning down below, no school this Wednesday, which is Veterans Day. Finance Committee meeting, early release on the 24th, and no parent-teacher conferences on the 25th, as well as the 24th afternoon, and then Thanksgiving vacation, the 26th, 27th. Public input. Okay, seeing no public input, and for anybody that's still, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There, yep, there you go.
Hi, I'm Paige Moore, and I'm the student body rep at the high school. And today I'm just here with some of my fellow peers' concerns. A lot of my peers feel that they're not being heard with how they're feeling, and hearing that we've ruled that we are not going back after Christmas, is there a possibility for modification to our hybrid system? Right now, several students in different grade levels and different level classes feel that the hybrid is very confusing, going from online to in-person, and the self-teaching is not being as successful as they would like. It's discouraging to them. So going forward, is there any way we can help change things so that students are more successful and there's more clarity? But I do know they appreciate being able to go in school the amount that they are. So thank you so much for all the hard work you guys have put in as the board and for teachers. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and any suggestions or anything that any of the students would like to send into the superintendent or myself, we're more than happy to look at any options or any suggestions that the students might have.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public input? Okay, any closing comments by board members? We don't have to have any, but Jim, go ahead.
No, I always have something to say, right? Hello. Okay. Is this thing on? Okay.
Dana, or anybody, just give me a different mic for now. Here you go.
Thank you very much. This next tune I'd like to dedicate. This is a little bit off topic, but I think it relates. I'd like to recognize the passing of Alex Trebek, a truly great man who I think instilled the pursuit and appreciation of knowledge to so many people for so many years. And if you've ever watched the show, endless contestants said that hearing him on that show set them on a path of education and career pursuit, and we're, I think, all going to really miss the guy.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Any other public input? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A semicolon 3, paragraph 2 for student and legal matters. All right, hang on a minute. I'm going to give that to Charlene. Made the motion. Jim seconded. All right, Krista? Julianne? Tim? Wendy? Dr. Jim Pittman? Charlene? Dana? And chair is in. So we are in non-public.